Love this and solo right there. Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be covering this morning. We're going to be talking about the 8 goal categories of the millionaire real estate agent. So I'm excited. I have my book here, and we've gone a little bit through the fundamentals, right? We've gone through some of the pieces around how do people think, right? How do people think? How do we need to think? What are some of the myths that need to be broken around being a millionaire real estate agent, right? We've gone through the 9 ways that a millionaire real estate agent thinks. And then we've gone through the 3 L's, or the foundational model of that millionaire listing agent, making sure that we always have leads, listings, and leverage at the forefront of our mind, right? Making sure that we're incorporating that in there. What we're going to be talking about now is the 8 goal categories of the millionaire real estate agent. So you ever heard the phrase, it's important that we know our numbers, right? We talk about knowing our numbers again and again. And so that's what we're really going to look at, right? Is so let me kind of give you a gauge on that, right? And this is one of the pieces that Gary talks about. In basketball, in sports, if it's the 4th quarter and somebody says, hey, what's the score, right? What's the score and how much time is left, right? We know those numbers. We expect that somebody that is watching the sports game is keeping an eye on the score and how much time is left. And yet we don't necessarily keep enough of that focus on our own business, right? And it's going to be really important that we do so. So we expect the players on a sports team keep track of key information. Why then do we not also keep track of that information within our own business? And so that's really what we're going to talk about today. I see a couple more people just joined on, and those that are joined on the live, if questions come up, please put them in the chat box or put them in the comments on the Facebook broadcast as well. And I'm happy to make sure that I get to those questions as well. But getting onto this piece, so there's going to be 2 numbers that we want to make sure that we're aware of in each of the 8 goal categories that we're going to go over for the millionaire real estate agent. Number 1, we have to know the goal number, right? What is that goal number that we've set for ourselves in our business? And we're going to talk about the goal categories today, right? And then if we have time, if not, we'll hold till next week on brushing through the actual economic model. So one piece is knowing what are the areas that I should have goals in. What are the areas that I should be tracking? The second aspect of that is going to be, how do I determine what my goal number should be based on how much money I want to have in my pocket at the end of the year, right? Based on expenses. And that's part of what we're going to be working through. So 1, we need to know our goal numbers, and 2, we need to know the actual numbers, right? We need to know the actual numbers. So in sports, we know that the goal is to win the game, right? And we base our numbers off making sure that we have a higher score or higher points than the other team. In business, our goal is not just to win the game. We have a goal based on how much money we want to have in our pockets, right? That's the goal number. And then we look at the actual numbers. Where are we actually at right now? One of the things that I want to note on this when we're looking at our actual numbers. So this might be something, if you're thinking about this now, what was your goal for 2020, right? What was your goal for 2020? What is the actual, and are you on track? And if you're not on track, then what are some of the adjustments we're making as we're here in the second half of the year? So let's talk a little bit about the way millionaire real estate agents set goals. We know not only do they know their goal number, not only do they track their actuals, but when we start looking at our goals, we want to set our someday goals right? We want to know our 3-year goals, our annual goals, our monthly goals, and even our weekly goals, so that we can utilize those same categories and start breaking it down into something that's going to be a little bit more manageable. The 8 goal categories we're going to talk about: number 1, leads generated; number 2, listings; number 3, contracts written; number 4, contracts closed; number 5, our money, right? Number 5, our money; number 6, people; number 7 is systems and tools; and number 8 is going to be our personal education. So we're going to start off right with lead generation. Now, what we need to know as we go through this is we're asking ourselves certain questions, right? We're asking ourselves certain questions around these goals. So in order for us to be on track for what we want to achieve, how many leads do we need to generate, right? How many leads do we need to generate? Leads are the most important number, right? We need to know how many leads do I need to generate to meet my goal, right? And I should also be keeping record of how many leads am I receiving and how many leads am I prospecting, right? The other thing that you want to keep track of as you're looking at your leads is the source of the business as well, right? We want to keep track of not just what leads do I have, but what is the source of those leads? So if you're getting a sign call, right, that source is sign call. If it's, I would say open houses, but we're not doing open houses right now, right? However, if you've been keeping track of your goals and you know that the majority of your leads came from open houses last year, then when we're in a market like the market we're in right now, that gives you a clear indicator of where you need to pivot, right? So this is why it's also important to keep track of the source. Is the source coming from cold calls, right? Is it coming from geographic farming? Did that lead come from Facebook or social media, right? How many leads do I need to generate, and where are the leads coming from? The second part on leads that's going to be really important that we want to start keeping track of is, what is my conversion rate? So as we get into the next few categories, if we know when did I get the lead, how many leads did I get, where did the lead come from, and what type of lead is it, buyer, seller, or less frequently leasing or landlord, right? But the most frequent categories are going to be our buyer and sellers. And then we start looking at, okay, how many contracts did I open? That's going to give us a gauge of goal of one of the next goal categories, which has to do with conversion, right? Contracts open to contracts closed gives us a category on conversion. I want to note one of the reasons that this is going to be really important, that you really have a handle on how many leads you have at any given time, what the source is, and where they're coming from. Because sometimes I'll have an agent that comes and they say, hey, I'm not on track for my goals. I'm having trouble opening transactions, right? And the first question is around, great, how many leads are you generating regularly, right? How many people are you having conversations with, two-way conversations with on a regular basis, right? If the number is high and there's no conversion, right, then we know that maybe it's a conversion problem, then maybe it's a scripting problem. But if we know that the number is low, right, then it becomes a lead generation issue. And so as you look at, are you on track to achieve your goals, right? I'm going on appointments, but I'm not closing. Well, that becomes a presentation issue. But I don't have enough appointments is generally a lead generation issue, which means mastery of your scripts is the most important area of focus initially, right? As we're looking at this first goal category. The second goal category of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent is listings. So we talked last week about the triangle: leads, listings, and leverage, right? Leads, listings, and leverage. So we know that listings and obtaining a certain amount of listings every year should be an area that is part of our category. So I'm going to note there's a couple trains of thought here, right? When agents get into the business, a lot of times what happens, they're told, hey, buyers are easier. That is a mindset thing, right? That is a mindset thing. Buyers are no easier than listings, right? Buyers are no easier than listings. But we get in our mindset that is easier to find buyers, right? That it is easier to work with buyers. Now I'm going to note there's a couple of the challenges here. If we're looking at the goal category of listings, what is the number of listings that you want to take over the course of the next year, right? Over the course of 12 months, what is that goal, right? Is it, I want to take a listing a month, so it's 12 listings, right? Is it, I want to take a listing every other month, so it's 6. I want to take 2, 3, 4 listings a month. What does that look like, right? What does that look like? And do you have a listing lead strategy as a part of your business plan? Or are you focused primarily on opportunities that will help you to generate buyers? So this is why a lot of times when agents are getting into the business, right, they go focus on buyers. Why? Because they're told that open houses is the easiest way to lead generate. Go do a couple open houses over the weekend and you'll lead generate. And then they're not taught fundamental questions to ask at that open house. So for example, everybody's always asking, are you interested in this house? Are you working with an agent? And very few people ask the fundamental question, do you have a home to sell in order to purchase this one, right? Do you have a home to sell, right? It's a fundamental change in mindset when we know that every lead generation opportunity that we pursue is also an opportunity for us to take more listings if we position it that way. If you're gonna go do open houses, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the strategies since open houses are not available right now, but I want this to always be a question in your mind is if I'm pursuing a certain type of lead generation, how do I use this form of lead generation to help me generate more listings, right? So open house, we know asking the fundamental question of every prospect, do you have a home to sell? Door knocking around the open house to find additional properties that might be interested in selling, right? If there's multiple buyers that come in, the I've got a buyer post, right? I've got a buyer that's pre-approved for 460 that's looking for homes in Whittier. How I'm calling every homeowner, right? I'll give you an example. I had a client that was fundamentally invested in being in a particular condo unit, right? That building, it was, I'm going to be on this block or I'm not going to be anywhere. This is the only block I plan to live on. These are the only condos that I'm interested in, and was willing to wait for new listings to come on the market in that particular unit, right? Well, isn't that a phenomenal opportunity to lead generate every single homeowner or condo owner, right, in that unit to generate listings? So do you know the number of listings that you want to take over the course of the next 12 months? And remember, the listings are no easier or harder than the buyers, right? We just realized there's a lot of buyers right now because there's a lot of buyers getting pre-approved right now to take advantage of the interest rates. But might it not then be easier to have a listing when there's so much demand, right? And the buyer is going to take you twice as much time. So I don't want this to be, hey, don't work on buyers. Absolutely work on your buyers and make sure that you understand how many listings do I want to take over the course of the next year? And do I have a strategy as a part of my plan to also pursue listing leads, such as virtual open houses? And this is how we market, your property and being able to showcase that. The forbearance conversation that we're going over right now in morning scripts, which is a huge opportunity in the listing market to start building that listing pipeline. Absentee owner, right? Commercial, office, and retail. So a lot of those areas that we want to keep an eye on. The third category of the millionaire real estate agent, contracts written. Contracts written. You need to know, how many contracts am I writing? Every time I write a buyer offer, every time I write a listing agreement, whether it is signed or not, right? We need to know our contracts written, because the next category is going to be our contracts closed, right? How many escrows am I opening? How many buyer units am I writing, right? How many sellers am I writing contracts for? What is the volume written, right? What is the volume that I'm writing, right? And what do we mean by that? So if you're writing a contract at 500K and your next contract is at 600K, and then you've got one for $1 million over here, this is going to help you determine your average price points, right? Your average price point across the board. It's also going to help you determine of the amount of volume that you're opening, how much is closing, and then gross income written. Gross income written. So how do we keep track of that? I know we have a couple guests on the line, right? And a couple guests that are watching. So for some of you, you may have to keep track of this manually, right? However, for most of you that are on the line, this is where opportunities kicks in KW Command, right? Where opportunities kicks in KW Command. Here's the thing that's going to be really important about utilizing opportunities in Command is when you write an offer and you have a buyer that you're moving through the pipeline, you want to make sure that's going into Command and you're putting the dates in, right? You're putting the dates in. You're putting the purchase price, you're putting the average commission, the same thing as we're looking at our seller listings. You want to do the same thing. What this is going to give you is it's going to track the number of contracts you've written, right? So that you can start keeping track of that piece. It's going to help you keep track of your volume, right? But it's also going to help you keep track of your timing. From the moment that you first create an opportunity with the buyer where they're ready to move forward to the moment you put them in escrow, what is that average time frame, right? Because that gives us a coaching opportunity on how can we shorten that. Are there systems that we can put in place to shorten that, right? This is why, and then our gross income, it gives us a marker of our gross income. So the amount of potential business, potential GCI that we have coming in. So I'm going to just share my screen really quick because I want you guys to kind of see what this looks like. I'm not going to go into this in depth, right? But whether you're working listings or you're working buyers, for example, here, right, we can see here a volume of 2.65 million, right? An average time frame of 43.4 days, right? This is going up. We track days on market for listings. Why then do we not also track how long we have our buyers on market, under contract volume, and then we can start seeing income over here, right? Probable income based on the stage they're in. Somebody that's under contract is highly more likely to close than those that are still active, and then potential income, so the potential GCI. So I just wanted to touch base on this piece because it's going to give you your unit numbers, probable income, and potential income, and then you can start tracking some of your pending closings and those pieces as well, right? These are very important as we're tracking the goal categories. This is why this piece of Command was created, right? And if you're a guest on the line, you're not with KW, then manual tracking, the making sure that you're also tracking your contracts written and that your contracts closed. So in contracts closed, again, number of units, total volume closed, and gross income closed. Now, the fifth goal category of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, the one that most people track, that most people will actually track and not realize that every other goal category feeds into this. Your money, right? Your money, your gross commission income, your budget, your net income, and your agent compensation, right? The profitability that you have. So your gross commission income, what is the GCI that I am generating over the course of these transactions? What is my gross commission income? What is my budget? How am I holding my money accountable? So budget is going to be a couple different things, right? The expenses that you incur as a business owner, the marketing expenses for a listing, gas, all of the different things that are incorporated into your business budget, your net income. Your net income after the cost of doing business, what was my net income, right? So after, if any transaction fees, what is my net income on a particular transaction? And finally, what as an agent do I take home, right? what as an agent am I taking home? Now, initially, most of you may be working as a sole proprietor. As your business grows, and this is something that I always highly recommend, even how you issue your payment to yourself as it is now, right? Real estate, we experience the peaks and valleys. Sometimes we've got 5 clients that are active at once, right? And we have a big influx of cash. And then if you haven't generated consistency in your business yet, you might have a month where maybe there's 1 closing, right? So what does that look like in terms of how we compensate ourselves, right? Agents that are working from a consistent standpoint, from making sure that they understand their expenses, they allocate a certain amount of money to pay themselves on a monthly basis, almost as though they're salaried, so that they always have enough in the account and are able to spread it out, even if there's a high influx month, right? That's money management. That's going to be really important. And then once you're ready, then we do highly recommend at some point having either LLC or some type of LLC or corporation that's going to be in your best interest once you speak with your accountant on how to address, and move that money around. But understanding your money and tracking your money from GCI, budget, net income, and the amount of money you take home is going to be extremely important as well as we look at that category. The 6th category of the millionaire real estate agent is going to be people, right? It's people. So there's 3 categories around what do we need as we track based on people. People can be some of the most important type of leverage that you bring into your business. Now, of course, one side of that is recruiting and potentially growing your team, right? And we ask the question, what people needs do I have? Who do I need? And what do I need them to do? And where will I find them, right? That's when you're ready to start growing your team. However, this might also be something that you ask around what vendors do I need, right? Who do I need in my team as it pertains to vendors and those around me? Number 2, what training needs do I have, right? When training needs do I have, and who is going to help me by providing that sort of training, right? How and when, and this is going to be a couple pieces here as well, right? I want you to look at this in 2 categories. If you are a solo agent, what training needs do you need, and who is going to help you with that, right? And if you are on a team, what training needs do your people have, right? And how are you going to help support them in that? And number 3, consulting. What performance or accountability issues do I have, right? What performance or accountability issues do I have? Do I have an accountability partner to work with, right? Or a coach to work with, right? Or somebody that I'm working with to help hold me accountable, who can help me do that, right? And then if you're running a team, do you have that in place for your own business, for those that are on your team, right? For those that are on your team. Again, the other thing that's going to be really important here, even if you don't already have people needs, and you may not, right? You may not be at that place where you need additional support yet. However, you always want to look at what are the areas in my business where I may be experiencing overwhelm? What are the areas in my business where I may be experiencing overwhelm, and who can help me? And at what point do I need to bring someone on to help me in that area, right? Who can help me, and at what point do I need to bring somebody on to help me in that area? Now, this 6th goal category on people is going to play hand in hand with the 7th goal category, right? The 7th goal category is systems and tools. So this is almost like what comes first, right? Do you put the cart before the horse, right? The chicken and the egg, what came first? That's a difficult question to ask sometimes. And as we're looking at our business, I want to know that people is one form of leverage. People is one form of leverage, but systems and tools is the other form of leverage. So there's a couple things to note here. What are the tools that I'm using? What are the tools that I am using, and what are the systems that I am putting in place? Now, what does that mean? A tool is going to be something like, for example, KW Command, right? Your database and your platform to manage transactions. So the tool itself is the actual technology, right? The tool itself could be your listing presentation, your buyer presentation. The system is a little bit different. The system is when I generate a lead, ABC happens, right? So the system is, this is how I generate a lead, right? The system is I master the forbearance conversation. The script itself is my tool, right? The script is my tool, and I call homeowners in a particular farm area, or I call homeowners in my personal network. I use the script, right? I use the script to generate conversations. I achieve 10 to 20 conversations per day. When I when I have a conversation, my goal is to get permission to stay in contact with them, right? Or to generate an appointment. That's three pieces right there. It's a system, right? But then there's also, okay, what happens once the lead is generated? Somebody raises their hand and says, yes, I'm willing to have this conversation with you, or yes, I'm willing to potentially move forward, right? Then the next part of the system becomes, I input that lead into the tool, the CRM, my database. I put them on drip campaigns, right? Smart plans. I put them on a monthly neighborhood nurture, right? That is the system. I touch base for a second appointment to review their agreement, or whatever it may be, if you're following the forbearance conversation, right? The system is just what is my step-by-step process that I do, right? What is my step-by-step process that I do? And then the tool is, what tool am I using to do that? Our phone is a tool, our script is a tool, our presentations are tools, right? And our database is a tool, our drip campaigns are the tools. So I want to have clarity around that, because being able to document your system and create your unique system and duplicate your results, that is the only way that you can duplicate your results, right? That is the only way we can duplicate our results. And too often, what happens is that as agents, we rely on muscle memory, right? We rely on, this is how people talk about doing the business, and we don't have our actual system in place. Now, I'll note, right? It's going to be really important when we're looking at the potential systems that we have in place, that if you're sending out the same email every time you meet a particular client, that is a script that needs to be in your toolbox, right? So are you documenting that so that you can utilize it again, right? And the question you should ask yourself is, what new systems or tools do I need to add? And what systems or tools do I have and I need to upgrade? And then the 8th category of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, personal development, personal education, right? The way this area shows up in our thinking is, what knowledge do I need to learn? What skills do I need to acquire? What knowledge, if I have a team, does my team need to learn? And what skills do they need to acquire? This category is how we cultivate what's called a growth plan, right? What's called a growth plan. So a growth plan is, these are the skill sets that I need to improve on. So if it's scripts, am I participating in scripts and role play, right? If it's scripts, am I participating in scripts and role play regularly, right? If it's, I need to improve my personal education around the listing presentation. Have you created your listing presentation? Are you practicing it regularly, right? So that's part of what we want to look at from personal education. So I'll note that was 8 goal categories that are going to be really important. What I'm going to note is, as we go into the next section, so we've covered a lot on mindset, thinking, and areas that we need to hold ourselves accountable to. What we're going to be jumping into in the next session, starting next week, is how do we earn $1 million, right? How do we now move from think $1 million to earn $1 million? Do we understand our economic model? Do we understand our financial goals, right? And now that we understand the categories of goal setting, well, how do we really reverse engineer our business and our goals and what we want to achieve from a profitability perspective, so that we know how many leads we need to generate on a regular basis, so that we know some of these different pieces as well, right? That's going to be what we're covering next week. So I want to know the pages that I want you to keep an eye on: page 119 to 128, page 119 to 128. And I want you to also start looking at 129 to page 132, right? 129 to page 132. With that, I hope you all have an absolutely phenomenal day. I will be talking with you soon, and I will see you for the next piece of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Bye, guys.